Welcome to MPERS webinar series. The presentation today is the Year 2000 Plan for Year 2000 Plan employees of MoDOT, Uniform and Civilian Patrol, and MPERS. My name is Jamie Mullen, and I'm a Senior Benefit Specialist here at MPERS, and I will be your moderator today. Here's some important information we want you to know about today's presentation. The content of this presentation is targeted specifically for Year 2000 Plan members of the system. Additional webinar installments targeting the other plans administered by MPERS can be accessed via the Education on Demand section of our website. The Education on Demand section of our website is, of course, mpers.org along the right-hand side, right from our homepage there. So if you click on that, not only will you have access to previous webinar installments, but also brief videos explaining the basics of the benefits that we administer here at MPERS. Before we get started, I want to let you know that your microphones have been muted. This is for the benefit of all attendees. However, you will still have the opportunity to participate. You can type questions at any time during the webinar. Due to time constraints, we will address a sampling of those questions at the end of the webinar if you would like to stay on the line. If not, a recording of the webinar, including the question and answer session, will be made available at a later date. Remember to ask those questions as you think of them throughout the presentation. If we don't have time to address your question, we will follow up with you personally by email to answer your question. I would also like to mention the attachments. There are attachments available in the handout section. These include the plan handbook, the plan brochure, as well as a PDF of the presentation. You can download them from here at any time during the presentation, or you can access them on our website later. Lastly, a short survey will be provided to you at the conclusion of the presentation today, as well as in a follow-up email. You only need to complete the survey once, of course, but we do encourage you to give us your comments. This will allow us to make adjustments to our presentation so that we can enhance your experience at future presentations. Now, I would like to introduce you to the presenter, Mary Jordan. Mary is also a Senior Benefits Specialist here at MPERS, and she specializes in retirement and disability counseling. Mary, I'll turn things over to you now.
The presentation today is geared towards your retirement benefits in the Year 2000 plan. We have a lot of information that we want to cover in a fairly short amount of time. We will hit the highlights that will hopefully spur additional thought and planning for you to follow up on in the near future. As we go through our discussion, I will be able to share reference information for you that will allow you to use later as your career develops and your retirement planning expands. Before we get into the details of the plan, I will start by talking about what kind of retirement plan we have, which is a defined benefit plan. Then we'll get into the discussion of the Year 2000 plan in particular, eligibility, how we calculate your benefits, COLAs, which are cost of living increases. They're annual raises that you receive on your retirement benefit. Another plan provision that we have that you might have heard about is the backdrop. We'll talk about payment options that would include survivor options for a spouse or beneficiary. And then we want to try to impress upon you the value of your retirement benefit that is being provided to you by your employer as part of your entire benefit package. And last, we'll talk to you about some other considerations both inside and outside of MPERS that will help you prepare for your retirement. MPERS is what's called a defined benefit plan, and how that works is really fairly simple. There's no decisions that you make about your retirement while you're still working. You just continue to work to become vested. Becoming vested means that you're eligible to receive a retirement benefit at a later date. So you work, become vested, and then meet the eligibility requirements to retire, then we will pay you a retirement benefit. We'll pay you that monthly retirement benefit for the rest of your life. You cannot outlive your retirement benefits from MPERS. The next important piece is how much will that benefit be? This is where the defined benefit part comes into play. The monthly benefit is defined in a formula that is set out in state law. The formula takes into account your service, salary, and a multiplier. So the general theme here is that the longer you work, the more service you will have, and the higher your salary will be. Then the higher your benefit will be when you retire. That is important to keep in mind throughout our discussion today. Now let's talk about funding. Although this isn't directly related to how we pay your retirement benefit. It is important to the long-term sustainability of MPERS. We collect contributions from your employers. Every time you get paid, we get money sent to us. You as a year 2000 plan member do not actually contribute money into the plan. The employer is making all the contributions on your behalf. So this plan is funded entirely by the employer. So we collect those contributions and we invest them with a long-term perspective so that we can pay not only current retirees, but also you when you eventually retire and pay you for the rest of your life. The advantages for the defined benefit plan participant is that the employer bears the risk of investing. In other words, your monthly benefit is based on the formula we just discussed, regardless of the conditions of the market when you retire. Another advantage is that you will be paid once per month for the rest of your life, no matter how long you live. So there's no possibility of outliving that benefit that we pay you. Here at MPERS, we administer 3 different retirement plans. We have the closed plan, the year 2000 plan, and the 2011 tier. They are fairly similar, but there are a few differences. So our discussion today will just be focusing on the year 2000 plan. The next item that I want to mention is that you should always have in the back of your mind the concept of how your retirement will progress as your career progresses. This concept has been around for years. Retirement readiness can be seen as a 3-legged stool. If you have a long career with state government, then the MPERS defined benefit will be a solid leg of that stool. As state employees, we also contribute to Social Security as well as the employers contributing to Social Security on our behalf, and that will add another leg to that stool. And then we also can't forget personal savings to make up any shortfalls in our well-rounded retirement picture. These all play important parts in your whole financial security in retirement. So the year 2000 plan is for members who were hired on or after July 1 of 2000, but before January 1 of 2011. It also includes members that were hired before July 1 of 2000, but maybe they left state government before they were vested, before they had 5 years of service, and then they came back later to state employment after July 1 of 2000, then they would also be in the year 2000 plan. Let's look at retirement eligibility now. One important distinction that I want to point out as we look at retirement eligibility is that it can be based on whether you continue to work as an active employee all the way to retirement or if you leave and qualify for retirement later. We call that a vested former employee. If you work all the way until retirement, we consider you retiring as an active employee. But maybe you quit before you actually retire, but you retire within 65 days of separating from employment. If you do that, we're still going to consider you an active employee when you retire. But after that 65 days, we're going to consider you a vested former employee, and you will most likely have different retirement eligibility dates, but we'll talk about that in a few minutes. So normal retirement eligibility. First, being eligible to qualify to retire, members of MoDOT, Civilian Patrol, and MPERS, you have 2 different ways of qualifying for normal retirement. You can qualify at age 62 with at least 5 years of service, or you can qualify under the Rule of 80. With the Rule of 80, we add your service and your age together, and when that reaches 80, you're eligible to retire. So say somebody is age 50 and they have 30 years of service, we add those together and that's 80. 80 and out, they're ready to retire. They're eligible to retire. But now let's look at uniform patrol employees. A little bit different eligibility. They also have the Rule of 80, but then they have mandatory retirement at age 60 that would make them eligible to retire. Now let's look at the vested former employees like we talked about. If you don't retire from active employment, then that rule of 80 is no longer an option for you. The only option you would have for normal retirement is at age 62 with at least 5 years of service. So let's talk about early retirement. Maybe you can't wait till your normal retirement age and you want to go before that. Employees of MoDOT, Civilian Patrol, and MPERS have the option of doing early retirement at age 57 with at least 5 years of service. And then Uniform Patrol employees also have the option of at age 57 with 5 years of service. When you take early retirement, you take a reduced monthly benefit, but you potentially get to draw that for longer. The reduction in your monthly benefit is 0.5% for each month that you retire before your normal retirement date. But remember, when you take early retirement, based on that early retirement date, we're basically going to take a snapshot of your service and your age. We're going to recalculate what your normal retirement date would have been based on that lesser amount of service because you're retiring early. So the number of months between your early retirement date and what you thought your normal retirement date would have been otherwise, if you had continued working, that can be different. So that's something to consider if you're looking at early retirement. You know, give us a call and we can talk through those options with you. So let's go back to the formula, the defined benefit formula. With this, we take into account your service, your final average pay, and the multiplier to get to your lifetime base benefit. So when we look at service credit, we take into account the time that you worked for the state of Missouri. We're also going to factor in your unused sick leave. And then the last is any time that you might have purchased or transferred in. And we'll look into those options in a little bit. Now let's look at your final average pay. We look at your entire payroll history as an eligible employee. We get pay records every month that shows what you were paid. So we're going to find the highest 36 consecutive months of pay and average those to calculate your benefits. In most cases, this will probably be your last 36 months, but maybe you had some overtime, or maybe perhaps you took even a lower paying job in the last few years. And so we're going to go backwards and even look at that older salary and find out when you were making the most and use that to calculate your final average pay. And then the multiplier. The multiplier in the year 2000 is 0.017. So this is your lifetime base benefit. If you qualify for normal retirement prior to age 62, we will pay you an additional temporary benefit until the age of 62. This benefit is calculated the same way, just with the multiplier being 0.008. So we take your credited service times your final average pay times 0.008 to get your temporary benefit. But remember, you have to qualify, you have to take normal retirement. If you take early retirement, you're not eligible for that temporary benefit. So let's look at an example and show you how all of this works. So some assumptions that we'll use during our discussions. We have a member who's age 55, has 25 years of creditable service. They're qualifying under the rule of 80, and their final average pay is $3,000. So we put that into the formula. We take their 25 years of service times the $3,000 times the 0.017. We get a lifetime monthly base benefit of $1,275. And since they qualified under the rule of 80 and they're younger than age 62, they're eligible for that temporary benefit. So they have 25 years of service times the $3,000 gives you times your multiplier 0.008 gives you a temporary base benefit of $600. We add those two together And the monthly benefit starting out at retirement is $1,875. So now let's look at the cost of living increases. When you retire, you're eligible for a cost of living increase or a COLA. That is a lifetime annual raise. It can be from 0 to 5%, and we calculate that based on 80% of the change in the Consumer Price Index, the CPIU. It can fluctuate from year to year based on how inflation goes, but on average in the last several years it's been between 1.5% and maybe up a little close, maybe up towards 2% also. So in the year 2000 plan, cost of living increases are paid on the anniversary date of your retirement, or if you elect backdrop, they're paid on the anniversary date of your backdrop date. So now let's talk about backdrop. This is another payment option that may be available to you when you retire. So you would first become eligible for normal retirement. And then to qualify for the backdrop, you have to work at least 2 years past the date you were first eligible for normal retirement. Then you decide to retire and then choose backdrop. You would choose what we call the backdrop date, and this would be an earlier date that we would use to calculate your benefit. If you take backdrop, we'll show you what happens. You'll receive a lump sum payment at the time of retirement. The lump sum is equal to 90% of the monthly retirement benefit you would have received had you actually retired on that backdrop date. And then we will pay you an ongoing monthly retirement benefit. And this benefit will be based on the service and your salary you earned up until that backdrop date. When you take backdrop, your benefit is calculated on less service and potentially less salary in exchange for that lump sum payment. So that's basically the trade-off. Your monthly benefit is less in exchange for that lump sum payment that you receive at the time you retire. So if you take backdrop, you have options for that lump sum payment. You can roll the money over to an eligible IRA plan like your deferred comp plan. There are no taxes withheld if you elect to do the rollover. You're going to pay taxes based on drawing it out of the plan that you rolled it into. If you roll it into a Roth IRA, there are some differences there, so we'd want to make sure to talk to you later when you're getting ready to retire about that. But if you take the money as cash, you can take it as one lump sum payment or up to 3 annual installments. The money is taxed the year that you receive it. The IRS requires us to withhold 20% prepayment of federal taxes. That may not be all that you owe. You may also be subject to an extra 10% early distribution penalty. And with that penalty, it's looking at your age when you separate from employment. If you separate from employment before the year you turn 55, then you would be subject to that 10% early distribution penalty if you took the lump sum as cash. For qualified public safety officers, that age is actually age 50 instead of age 55. MPERS also does not withhold state taxes from a cash distribution, although you do owe state taxes on it, so you would be responsible for paying those state taxes. You can also do a combination of a cash and rollover. You tell us how much you want to roll over and where to send that, what financial institution to send that to. We send them that amount, and then we send you the remainder as cash, again with the 20% federal taxes and the same other guidelines that apply with that. So now let's put all of this discussion into the formula to show you how all of this will work in more of a real life scenario. So again, we'll use the same assumptions we used earlier, but now our member has worked 2 extra years to make themselves eligible for backdrop. So now their age is age 57, and they have 27 years of service. They still qualify for the rule of 80, but now they've worked 2 extra years and they got a pay raise during that time. So now their final average pay is increased to $3,500. But if they take backdrop, we're going to go backwards 2 years, and they only had $3,000 final average pay 2 years ago. And then for our assumptions here, we're going to use a cost of living increase of 1.5%. So now if the member did not take any backdrop, we're going to give them full service and full salary credit. So they'd have 27 years of service times their $3,500 final average pay times the 0.017% multiplier gives them a monthly base benefit amount of $1,606.50. Now, they're also eligible for the temporary benefit because they're qualifying under the rule of 80. So now we take the same formula except the multiplier is 0.008. So their monthly temporary benefit is $756. So that would give them, starting out at retirement, a total benefit of $2,362.50. But now they want to look at taking backdrop. So if we calculate backdrop, we go backwards those 2 years and calculate what their monthly retirement benefit would have been with the 25 years of service and the $3,000 final average pay. It's $1,275 base benefit. And then the temporary benefit would be an extra $600. So starting out with the backdrop, we're going to look at a monthly base benefit of $1,875. Now we're going to give them cost of living increases during that backdrop period as if they had been retired. So the first year in backdrop, we give them a 1.5% cost of living increase. That takes that monthly benefit to $1,903.13. Since they're doing a 2-year backdrop, we're going to give them another cost of living increase on that benefit that we just gave them one on. So it's those cost of living increases are compounded. So another 1.5% increase takes that total benefit to $1,931.68. So that would be what their monthly retirement benefit would be at the end of that backdrop period. So now let's look at how we calculate the lump sum payment to go with their benefit. So the first year that they were retired, their monthly benefit was $1,875. We take that times 12 months. It's $22,500. Now for the second year, they had a cost of living increase. So the benefit of $1,903.13 times 12 months is $22,837.56. So we add those two amounts together and get $45,337.56. But remember, when you take backdrop, the lump sum payment is only 90% of what you would have received during that backdrop period. So the lump sum payment in this example is $40,803.80. So in comparison, if the member did not take any backdrop, their monthly benefit, including the base benefit and the temporary benefit, is $2,362.50, but they have no lump sum payment because they didn't take any backdrop. Now, if they had taken backdrop, their monthly benefit would be less. It's $1,931.68, but then they have a lump sum payment equal to $40,803.80. So the trade-off of the higher monthly benefit compared to a lower monthly benefit, but they'll receive that lump sum payment. We do have another tool available, a comparison tool that we can run that will kind of give you a side-by-side comparison, projecting out the differences in the monthly benefit amounts between if you take backdrop or don't take backdrop, and project those out 30 years or so to give you a comparison, maybe to see when the higher monthly benefit would catch up with that lump sum payment that you received. That does take into account, survivor options, and then we project cost of living increases. We just assume a cost of living increase since we don't know what those future ones will be. So we can run this. You just need to give us a call or let us know, and we'll get some information from you, and we can run this. We are also working on this comparison tool to be able to put out on our website and have available so employees can run it on their own as well. So keep a watch out on our website for that in the next few months. I just want to caution you about the decisions, how you base your decisions. We don't want you to base them solely on the figures that we've depicted in our presentation. There are other factors to consider, like taking into account the time value of money, your age and life expectancy. Remember to consider the amount of your monthly expenses as well as when considering backdrop. Make sure that you have enough money monthly and not just look at that lump sum amount when you retire. And as always, we recommend you consult a qualified professional when making your complex financial decisions. Another important part of retirement is planning is payment options. This is not a decision that you make ahead of time. When you're ready to retire, you'll select your payment options. These options are available to you at the time of retirement and will be based on your marital status at that time. So the first option is life income annuity. This is an unreduced benefit, the highest option that we can pay you with no reductions. But upon your death, the payments will end and there will be no continuing survivor payments. If you're married, you'll have the choice of a joint and 50% survivor option. You will take a reduction in your monthly benefit to provide a survivor option equal to 50% of the lifetime base benefit you're receiving at the time of your death. Your spouse will receive that benefit for the remainder of their life, including cost of living increases. Also, if you're married, you will have the choice of doing a joint and 100% survivor option. You'll take a little bit more of a reduction in your monthly benefit, but you'll be able to provide a survivor option equal to 100% of the lifetime base benefit that you're receiving at the time of your death. Again, your spouse would receive that benefit for the remainder of their lifetime, including cost of living increases. If you take a reduced monthly benefit and take one of the joint and survivor options and your spouse were to die before you, the month following that reduction, or month following death, that reduction is eliminated and we'll go back to paying you a life income annuity from that day forward. We call that a pop-up. Another item I want to mention is that the survivor benefits only apply to the lifetime base benefit. A survivor or beneficiary is never eligible to receive any portion of those temporary benefits that we discussed. So the last options that you would be eligible for would be guaranteed payments. These options are available to anyone and could provide the opportunity to leave a benefit to anyone, not just a spouse. It could be a child, a friend, or even a charity. With this option, you'll accept a reduced monthly benefit and will receive the reduced amount for the rest of your life, no matter how long you live. But the system guarantees a certain number of payments for you from the time you retire. If you were to die before we had made those certain number of payments to you, then we would pay the remainder of those payments to whoever you named as a beneficiary. There is a risk of outliving the payments and you take a reduced benefit for the rest of your life with no remaining payments to be paid to a beneficiary after your death. Now remember, we're going to pay you for the rest of your life. It's just any surviving payments that there's a risk of. So the reductions for these different options are available in our plan handbook, and they also show those dollar amounts when you run a retirement estimate. So now I just want to kind of impress upon you the value of what your retirement benefits provide from MPERS. And we're kind of going to use the examples we used before with qualifying age 57 with 27 years of service, so the rule of 80. But our person here is elected not to take backdrop, so they have the $3,500 final average pay and the 1.5% COLA. And this just kind of shows you how the benefits, the accumulated benefits that we pay out from year to year, how they can add up. You know, whether you live 5 years into retirement, 10 years, 20 years, or even 30 years, you have the potential for us to pay you a benefit of over $750,000 if you live 30 years into retirement. We did factor in the temporary benefit in our assumptions here for the months that the member was eligible for the temporary benefit, and then we again had the cost of living increases. But remember, with these benefits and these dollar amounts that you see with the year 2000 plan, the member didn't contribute any of their own money towards this retirement. The employer made all the contributions for that. We also have additional resources available to you, especially on our website, MPERS.org. This is the best option for you to get access to your benefits. You can sign into your secure account on the MyMPERS. Go to the MyMPERS login link there in green. If you've never signed in before, you create your own username and password to link to your account, and then you can run retirement estimates and look at other information from there. When you're running retirement estimates, remember that we take your current base pay and project it forward. We do not assume any pay increases. So if you do get a pay raise after you receive your first check, you'll want to run another estimate with that new salary, and so you can evaluate your options there. Also, remember, when you run estimates, we will use your current sick leave balance. So keep that in mind if you expect to have a significant change in that balance before you retire. So you can run estimates for when you're first eligible to retire, and we tell you those dates. Maybe it's first eligible for normal or early retirement. You also have another option if you know the specific date you want to retire. Maybe you're looking at backdrop and you know what that retirement date is. You can run an estimate with that information. Another option is maybe you have another job offer outside of state government and you're considering leaving state government. You want to know how that would impact your retirement benefit. When would you be eligible to retire, and what would your retirement benefit be? You can also run an option with that as well. A few other items to make you aware of, service credit being one of them. Remember that we have already talked about the longer you work, the higher your retirement benefit will be. So you will continue to earn service credit while you work for MoDOT or Patrol. We're also going to give you credit for your unused sick leave. If you're fortunate enough to have a balance left when you retire, every 168 hours, we'll give you another month of creditable service. So you can use your sick leave as you need it while you're working. But remember that when you retire, we're going to take that unused sick leave and turn it into service credit, and that will increase your retirement benefit for the rest of your life. But remember, the sick leave, you cannot use that extra service credit to qualify you to retire. We're just going to add it on when we calculate your benefit. So other state service, you do have the option, if you have state service that was covered under MPERS, you can transfer that over. There is no cost for you to do that. You'll not lose any service credit by doing that. It can transfer back and forth. Typically, it is more advantageous to have all of your service credit together where your salary was the highest in order to get you the highest monthly benefit possible, and use that all to qualify you to retire. Other public service, you do have the opportunity to transfer, or you possibly have the opportunity to transfer or purchase other public service to receive credit for it under MPERS. If you have other public service, it really would be best if you contact us and we can discuss your options at that time. Military service, if you have active duty military service that was worked prior to becoming a state employee, you might be eligible to purchase that time. Again, contact us to discuss your options about this, and actually any of these types of service credit we can discuss your options for. So now let's look at reemployment. If you retire, you can no longer work in a benefit eligible position covered either by MPERS or MOSERS without it impacting your retirement benefit from MPERS. We would freeze your retirement benefit, and if you continued to work, then you would start earning another benefit. As long as you work at least one continuous year, then you would accrue a second retirement benefit that we would add on to your original retirement benefit when you elected to retire again. But if you're not going to go work for state government, you are not restricted. If you go to work in the private sector, a city, county government, federal government, and even the University of Missouri, since they're covered under their own retirement plan, you wouldn't be restricted there. If you go to work as in a non-benefit eligible position, you might have heard people talk about 1,000-hour, 1,040-hour. If you do that for a state agency, then you would still not impact your retirement benefit from us either. As far as Mosher's covered service, remember that some colleges and universities are also covered by Mosher. So if you're going to take another job, you might give us a call and we can reaffirm whether that would impact your benefit. So some other considerations to think about when you're planning your overall retirement readiness. We talked at the beginning about the three-legged stool when you're planning for your retirement. And as a state employee, you have the opportunity to use the State of Missouri Deferred Compensation Plan to save towards your retirement. They provide great tax advantages, and so we encourage you to contact them to explore your options and get moving towards a secure financial retirement. Your medical and life insurance play a huge role in your retirement also. MoDOT and Patrol Employee Benefits, their website's listed there. We would highly encourage you to contact them to discuss your options as you move closer to retirement. They can discuss your options for retaining medical and life insurance coverage and what those costs would be as you transition into retirement. Taxes is another big aspect of retirement. One advantage when you retire is that you no longer pay payroll taxes on your pension. So that would be Social Security and Medicare taxes. That is a big part of your retirement check now for those payrolls. This would go away, but you would still owe federal taxes and possibly state taxes. There is a public pension exemption in Missouri that says if you qualify, you may have a portion or all of your pension exempt from Missouri taxes. We are not qualified tax advisors, so we would encourage you to talk to a tax professional or the Missouri Department of Revenue at dor.mo.gov to get more information on that. And then the third leg of the stool we talked about earlier, Social Security. You can go to ssa.gov and you can run retirement estimates for your future benefits and plan for that as well. But remember, I want to caution you that when you look at those Social Security estimates, they are assuming you continue to work until you retire from Social Security. So if you're planning on retiring before that and will not have any income, you'll want to contact them and get a specific estimate with that so you don't have any surprises later. We do have some other additional resources available through MPERS. We do pre-retirement seminars. As you get close to about 5 years eligible to retire for normal retirement, we will start inviting you to pre-retirement seminars. They're half-day sessions. We talk about all of this information for about 3 hours, so there's quite a bit of information there. We would encourage you to attend those, especially the first time you're eligible. Even if you're not planning to retire, it's good to get that information and get that thought started early. We also have our website, MPERS.org. There's always information changing on that, some extra things on the website to help spur some additional thoughts, so be sure to check that out periodically. It's ever-changing information. And then if you have questions, you can always email us at MPERS@MPERS.org, and we'll be glad to answer any questions from there.
Okay, very good. Now we're going to address some questions from the audience. And we have our first question here. We have someone that's reached retirement eligibility. They want to stay longer for backdrop. Do they have to make any type of declaration at that point that they're staying for backdrop?
Very good question. If you want to take backdrop, there is nothing you do to tell us you want to take backdrop. You just continue working. And then when you're ready to retire, if you're eligible for backdrop, we will give you all the information at that time, including the backdrop information. And that's when you elect whether you want to take backdrop based on all of your options at that time.
And along the same lines, when you've decided to retire, you're ready to retire, how far in advance do you have to notify MPERS and apply?
Yeah, with our retirement, you can only retire on the first day of the month, and you have to provide notice basically a month plus a day prior to the effective date of your retirement to get the process started. So you want to make sure and watch those deadlines.
Okay, thank you. Here's another question. So this person is retired under 80 and out. So they're receiving, it was normal retirement, they're receiving the temporary benefit. They turn 62, the temporary benefit goes away. They know they're eligible for early Social Security at age 62, but they decide not to take early Social Security. They want to wait longer so that they draw a higher Social Security benefit in the future. Does the temporary benefit still go away?
Even if you do not elect to take Social Security at age 62, that temporary benefit is not directly tied to that. So that temporary benefit would still stop at age 62, no matter what election the member makes as far as their Social Security benefits.
Okay, great. So even more questions here. Is there a limit as to how much unused sick leave can count towards your service credit?
Yeah, there actually is no limit on the total number of months credit that you can receive for your unused sick leave. But remember, it's only in increments of full month increments. Those 168-hour increments is all we can give.
And okay, this one's important. Just for clarification, I can receive my monthly retirement benefits after retiring from MoDOT while employed with another state agency.
If you're receiving a monthly retirement benefit from MPERS, if you work in a benefit eligible position for another state agency, your benefit would be suspended, be frozen with MPERS until you retired. It's all based on that benefit eligible position. So if you're full-time or even part-time benefit eligible, your benefit with MPERS would stop while you're still working.
Right. And then, of course, if you're in a non-benefit eligible job, a lot of people call that a 1,000-hour job or something like that. As long as you're not receiving benefits from that other state agency, you could collect your MPERS pension at the same time. Does unused vacation time count towards your service credit like sick leave would? Does the vacation do the same thing, Mary?
No, your vacation with retirement, we do not do anything with your vacation. That is with your employer. They will pay you out for any eligible unused vacation that you're eligible to be paid for. It would not count at all towards anything with your retirement.
Okay, good. We still have some good questions rolling in, so we'll keep this going for a little bit longer. Can I buy extra hours to round out a month of unused sick leave?
There is no mechanism to purchase anything with your sick leave. That's something that you would just need to plan for all through your career, and use your sick leave wisely and watch those balances as you get closer to retirement.
All right, and let's see. Okay, here's another one. If I take early retirement, so I'm taking that early reduced benefit for the rest of my life, do I still have the same payment options as a normal retirement person would, like those survivor choices that you talked about?
Right. No matter how a member qualifies to retire, whether it's normal or early, you still have the same payment options available to you for survivor and spouse benefits, beneficiary payments.
Okay, and another one, is backdrop guaranteed, or is there a chance it could go away before I retire? Well, go ahead, Mary.
That one is, it's in state law that's how it works.
Of course, they have eliminated backdrop for 2011 tier members, which is the newest plan. So if you're in the year 2000 plan, backdrop will remain an option for you and it will not go away. And are there, if any other questions, you can get them in right now. Otherwise, just looking through the list here, we've addressed just about all of them that we have time for in this time frame. Oh, one last question. Do the survivor benefits have to be a spouse, or can you designate a beneficiary? And go ahead and talk about that difference between the joint and survivor options and the guaranteed payment options just briefly.
Yeah, the joint and survivor options, the 50% and the 100% joint and survivor options can only go to a spouse. The guaranteed payment options that we discussed, those can go to anyone. They're not limited to just a spouse on those.
All right. Well, thank you for those questions. That's all we have time to address during the webinar. However, there are a couple other questions that we will personally follow up and respond to personally on those. I wanted to also mention to you, or just remind you rather, that there's an exit survey. It'll pop up when you close out of the presentation. It'll also be emailed to you. If you could just take just a few moments to complete that, we would very much appreciate it. And thank you very much for attending. This concludes our presentation. We appreciate your time and attention. We hope this gives you a basic understanding of your retirement options. And really, we hope that it motivates you to dig deeper into your overall retirement picture as well. So thanks very much from here at MPERS, and have a nice day.